Oh, we're already live. Hi, hello, and welcome everyone. Save the best for last, they say. This is day 3, third session, last session of the conference. So we are closing it out. So welcome all. Welcome Jane, welcome Ned, welcome Craig.
Thanks, Pinar.
Nice to be here.
Lovely
Glad
to have
to
you.
close it out.
Yeah, so you see the expectations are really, really high. The bar is here. So let's see. From where are you dialing in today? Where are you based at?
I am dialing in from right outside of Chicago, Illinois. Jane?
Yeah, I'm just outside London in a place called, near a place called Milton Keynes, famous for its roundabouts.
I'm dialing from Cape Town at the very bottom of Africa.
Oh, fantastic. And I'm in Europe and Berlin, Germany at the moment. So it's getting a bit darker now. I don't know what the time is there, but yeah, we'll have a great session. And I'm very, very excited to have all of you here today. And let's see what we're going to share with the audience today. And we will talk around beyond billable hours, recurring models that drive growth. And super, super happy. I would first like to introduce you all to the audience, and then we just kick it off because we have a lot on our agenda. And yeah, Craig Rodney is here today. Thank you, Craig, for joining. Craig is the founder of the Agency Coach. Agencycoach.com is already down there. That's wonderful. And he's been running for 15 years his own successful agency before it got acquired by WPP. And now he is a specialist agency coach. So a wonderful name for your company, the Agency Coach, as he is the agency coach. And he helps agency owners to build healthy business, grow revenue and profit. And I wish I had known you earlier, because I used to also run my own agency up until 4 years ago. And then I joined Amazon Ads. I missed a little bit the corporate life, I guess. And yeah, so I am now at Amazon. My name is Pinar Ünsal, and we also have Jane Hunt here, who is the CEO of JBH, and she's running a digital PR and SEO agency for already 12 years now. That turned into a niche PR and SEO agency, as it started off as a full service agency. So also a very interesting story, I think, that we can dive deeper into also later. And you have a book that is devoted to digital PR. This is super, super exciting, and I think a wonderful topic. And you can buy it at Amazon. Maybe you can even send the link. Some commercial break here. So welcome, Jane. And then we also have Rosasco. I hope I said your last name right. You're the founder, principal, and creative director of Olive Street Design. And you have an impressive story to share later on, because you scaled from 8 clients in 2010 to 1,465 today. Maybe is 1,466 already. I don't know. Hitting the 1,500. Yeah. So you have no sales team or business development team. You're a full service agency, digital and design. You're positioned as a 360 degree marketing firm, and you help SMBs compete in the market. So a wonderful panel here today. And if it's okay for everyone, we'll start with Craig, and then we'll collect the questions from the audience. Please keep it engaging, and everything you want to know from these fantastic people that we have here today, drop them in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, so we've got my slides up, and so I'm Craig Rodney. I ran an agency for 15 years. One of the big things we're going to talk about today is the recurring billable models, etc. But I'm not going to focus on that too much, because it's going to be a big part of the panel discussion, and my other panelists, I imagine, have significantly more to add on that than I did. My agency, we just defaulted to retainers, and it was easy. So I didn't really have to solve too many problems there. I want to talk a bit more about client retention. And I want to just put a caveat quickly that I realized that I've put a lot in here because I've tried to make it as helpful and as instructional as possible. So I try not to be too much theory, but if I end up going through it quickly, please either forgive me or slow me down. I want to start with this kind of caveat and just say that the single biggest retention tactic will always be the quality of your work. It is so obvious, and it's such an important thing, the quality and the results that your work delivers, that I'm going to look beyond it and go, Nothing else matters if you get this wrong. So for now, please just know that this is a default. You've got to get the work right. So today I'm going to talk about the importance of recurring revenue, establishing a balance of power with clients. I'll go through that quite quickly. And then from a retention strategy point of view, I take two tacts. There's always this the polite kind of strategy, and I'll talk about polite retention tactics, and then crafty, which is a better way of saying the impolite retention. And they are both absolutely critical, and they intersect, and you'll see where they intersect. So quickly, the importance of recurring revenue. I think everyone kind of gets it, right? Like everyone gets that it's easy to build a business when clients keep paying you money. It's easy to hit next year's targets when if you're trying to grow by 30%, then you know that, if you retain everything this year, you're already 70% of the way to next year's target. It's a lot easier to plan for staff and hiring, etc., when your revenue growth is consistent and predictable. And if you are starting every new revenue period from a base of 0 and having to resell everything up, it gets a lot harder. I know Nat's going to chat a lot about this, like the models that he's created, which I think are phenomenal. The one thing I want to give from a personal perspective is when I sold my agency, we ended up closing on our 3rd round of negotiations. And so I engaged with Aegis, with Publicis, and then ultimately with WPP. And the number one thing from all 3 of them was recurring income. That was it. That was like the peak of everything that they cared about. When you look at it logically, they're buying your business. They're not buying the current value. They're buying the future value. They're buying you because they want to believe that the future of your business is significantly more valuable than the current. That's the only reason why they want to buy you. And the thing that they're most critical of when they're assessing your business and when they're doing a due diligence is how likely you are to retain income into the future and how likely you are to continue to grow at a consistent and stable level. And so every one of those discussions, every one of those negotiations, almost every element of what they were asking us and what they were trying to discover was almost like scoring us, creating a likelihood score of how likely is this business to retain income and grow into the future. So it became a massive part of my life was solving this and figuring this out. And even if you don't plan on selling your agency, please understand that you are the current owner of the agency and you would want the future value of your business to be secure and guaranteed. So you have as much vested interest in securing future and recurring revenue as a potential acquirer would be. It's impossible to talk about secure future revenue without addressing kind of the elephant in the room, which is generally the power imbalance between agencies and clients. I work with agencies around the world, and it is quite a pervasive thing. It is culturally across every region, every sphere, every continent. It's the same issues around this kind of imbalance of power that agencies feel that they're struggling with. And from securing your future and securing a healthy future requires you securing things going in your favor. And it's important to know that you can't give your power away. You can't be in a position of weakness and have security around your future. Those two things are complete opposites. So a big part of you investing in securing future income and retaining income and creating this consistent recurring revenue within your business, it is all founded in having kind of a balance of power with clients. And generally the balance of power starts at the inception. It's very rare that an agency that has worked with a client for a while and slipped into this kind of weak position where the client has a lot of control over them, it's difficult to regain equity in that situation, right? As I say here, equality is never given. It's always fought for. You have to fight for it. You can't assume that a client will just voluntarily allow you to have equity in this relationship because they benefit from you being weak. So the things to look out for and the things that all the acquirers looked out for was how much revenue a single client contributes. And because if a single client contributes more revenue than your profit margin, you can't survive losing that client. right? There's no buffer and that creates a risk point. And then you're in a situation where you go, oh, we can't afford to lose this client. It's too much revenue, and you're weak when it comes to renewing contracts and renegotiating and perpetuating this relationship into the future. You don't have as much power. I'm going to talk about something later on, which is my practical advice to doing this. As much as we're talking about retaining revenue, the one thing I want to say to you is I don't believe in building buckets that don't have leaks. I think having leaks in your bucket is healthy. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, as long as you're leaking bad clients and retaining good clients. I don't believe that you can grow your agency on bad clients. You have to learn that you have to, if you have a bad client, if you're in a position of weakness, if you don't make money on a client, if you over deliver and these expectations are misaligned, it's fine to lose that client. It's healthy. You've got to lose it in a controlled way. So when you win a new client, instead of adding it on top of a bad client, rather replace a bad client. So it's okay to lose certain clients, but you want to know that you're losing the clients you're happy to lose. You're retaining the clients that you want to retain. But the equality and the balance of power starts at the initiation of a relationship. And unfortunately, when I engage with a lot of clients who have a kind of an anchor client and it's a bad relationship and feel weak, the bad news is at a certain point, you are probably going to have to replace this client in order to grow to a position of health. So we've got to get the balance of power right, and then we can build from there. Okay, so we're going to go into these two different types of retention tactics. I'm going to start with the polite side of retention. And I want to kind of look at the idea of going, I guess the easiest way to phrase it, and as I put it here, is polite retention tactics are about lowering the barriers to entry, about being an amazingly nice agency to work with, about building healthy relationships. Everything is founded in good-natured, healthy, positive kind of, and this is generally what a lot of agencies get right, is we're nice people and we're good at our jobs, and we want clients to love us, and we want clients to think we're amazing. And there's definitely no weakness in that. That's a good thing, but it is very polite. So the categories around polite are things like billing models. And as I said, I'm going to gloss over this because we're going to deal with it far more in the panel. But obviously you want to be building recurring revenue models into your agency. So you want to be looking at winning things like retainers or having clients on subscription models. I was reading earlier today about one of the most successful and fastest growing car wash companies in the US is based on a subscription model. So if a car wash can put their clients onto a subscription, you can as well. And what I generally say to agencies that work on projects is going, even if your income isn't based on retainers, you can secure exclusive relationships with specific clients. So you may not be able to predict and say, we get paid an exact amount every single month. But if you have an exclusivity contract with a client, if you're a preferred supplier, you can essentially secure their annual spend and then potentially average it out and go, no matter what they spend at what peaks, it's an average of this much per month. And so again, that exclusivity contract or the preferred supplier status operates as security within the framework of a billing model. You can look at doing billing models linked to performance. Something I'll talk about in the less polite side of things is having clauses in contracts where, as long as you're maintaining a certain level of performance, they can't fire you. That's really good if you can get that clause through. But having billing linked to performance is a great, and it's a polite way, and it definitely secures future revenue as long as you can maintain performance. And then, as I said here, performance-based lock-ins, which basically allows you some security to go, as long as we're hitting our performance metrics, we have security within this relationship. I'm pretty certain every single person listening right now knows that's ever worked on performance-based models is the moment you hit your target, the client just raises the target. And then you're like, but that doesn't make sense. Like, we've achieved it. And they just keep moving the goalposts and to a point where you can't keep up. So having that kind of locked in contractually is a really good thing to have. The next level are, oh, sorry, I forgot to click forward. So billing model, sorry about that. The next thing to look under polite behavior is going to be looking at your behavior, the behavioral side of your relationship with your clients. And the most important thing I think to get right is this understanding the difference between punishment and consequence. And what I mean by this is way too many agencies, and I talk here no covert contracts, way too many agencies act too nice at the inception of a relationship, and they don't establish their boundaries. And they allow a client to kind of run the course and get into bad habits and form these ways of working that are not necessarily ideal for the relationship. And then they're in a position where the only way to correct it comes across as though they're punishing the client. You're now suddenly saying to the client, oh, listen, I know we've been over delivering for 6 months, but now we're going to have to charge for these overruns or this. And you suddenly start getting protective and defensive because of this lack of power, and everything feels like from a position of aggression, like defensiveness is aggression, and it seems like a punishment, where the exact same behavior, if it was pre-disclosed, so during the onboarding of a client, if you very comfortably said to a client during the onboarding phase, if you said, hey guys, when we go over scope, this is how we handle it. So then when the time comes, you're simply initiating a consequence that was pre-disclosed as opposed to jumping in and kind of acting like you're punishing the client. The onboarding process with clients, when it comes to long-term retention, so much of your onboarding process determines the life of this client, because how you onboard that client, how you initiate that relationship, and how you stick to the rules in the early parts of that relationship determine how that relationship runs. If you allow it to get too out of shape, as I said earlier, it's really difficult to get it back into shape. It's really difficult to get a client to behave differently to how they got used to behave, or how you allowed them to behave and what they got used to in the first place. I encourage a lot of my clients to develop these ways of working books to be able to say, listen, guys, like this is how we work. These are the rules, and share that with clients. The next polite thing to look at after behavior is relationships. Sorry, guys, I'm going to kind of speed up. There's a lot to get through here. I always had a conversation with my marketing counterpart at a client, and I'd say, what are your personal KPIs? How can I help you hit your bonuses? Like, you shouldn't ever work with a person without knowing how they get their bonuses, because if the marketing director or the head of PR or whoever you report to is getting their performance bonus every year because of you, their agency, you're going to be secured. Goes without saying, you should do everything you can to have relationships with the CEO and CFO. I always initiate your relationships with my client sales teams. I would phone them on a monthly, quarterly basis and ask them about what's happening in the market, what are the challenges they're facing, what are the barriers to sales that they're experiencing, what are the questions that clients are asking you that are difficult to answer. Like, I would develop deep relationships with sales teams because that informed all of our marketing, and that really helped secure relationships going into the future. And if you want to be a little bit devious, you should form really good relationships with your client's competitors so that your client knows that if they fire you, you will move over to one of their competitors. The fourth area is partnerships. Most of you guys will I think, would imagine you would know this already. You need to invest in deep client relationships, in an understanding of your client space, of the industry. You have to become as much of an expert in your client's products, services, industries, etc., as they do. You have to be able to operate at that level. It's the difference between, they always say, difference between being a partner or a vendor. It comes down to these things: is you need to work with your clients to invest, and even if they pay you for it, this will be a great revenue stream. But you should be actively encouraging clients to work with you, to do research into the industries, to do testing together, to do market research, etc. All of this deepens your relationship with a client and deepens your understanding of their client's business. We were a creative agency, and so every quarter, my executive creative director, one of his KPIs was to host a creative inspiration session with every single one of our clients. So every 3 months, he would have to book the sessions, and he would have to go in and he'd do an hour of just, these are the best things we've seen around the world. This is the latest tech. This is the latest tactics, everything. And every 3 months, his responsibility was to get our clients drooling, like with the possibility of campaigns that we could work on. And if we managed to pull that off with clients, then they would always spend more money with us. Well, I want to talk now about the kind of the crafty, as I said, we have polite and now we have the impolite, the kind of the crafty side of this. This is more my speciality. This is where I get really excited about these things. The crafty retention tactics is essentially about raising the barriers to exit, making it painful for clients to leave or making it more painful to leave than to stay, and creating protections against abuse of power. A lot of this is just going to come down to contracts. So as I start talking about this, please understand that at a certain point, these tactics will have to be affected by means of a contract. The first one is around positioning. The deeper you are entrenched as an industry expert, the more you are specialized around a set of services or skills or industry knowledge, the harder it is for a client to replace you. If a client has an abundance of choice, if there are 500 agencies in the same city that can do the same stuff as you, there is no barrier to exit for that client. They can go and get 40 quotes and choose someone else. Your specialization of skills is a massive point of positioning to retention. Your years of earned experience and knowledge within that client, within the industry will definitely help. If you have access to skills and talent that the market doesn't have, and again, now that we operate in a global space, you can attract skills from anywhere in the world. So your skills will help to retain from a positioning point of view. And if you're able to secure exclusive partnerships with potentially tech partners or media partners or service partners where you're the only company in that region that's allowed to offer that service or whatever it is, then certain clients have to work with you. You are the default supplier. And look for anything to do with positioning. There's a lot of opportunity to create retention and security around retained clients within that positioning. If we look at your products, one of my favorite things ever is to design products that create lock-in for clients. And the product can be IP and technology. It doesn't have to be a piece of tech. It could be access to databases. One of my favorite clients built up a database of a few million buyers in South Africa, and he had all this demographic research, etc. And if you wanted access to the database, you had to use his agency to create all the mailers and the content and that kind of stuff. So if they wanted to go to someone else, they just wouldn't have access to the database anymore. And I think that's kind of such a phenomenal thing. I've worked with another client who sold a service to a client to say, we will create a back catalog and an index catalog of every piece of content that every agency has ever created for you. But access to that, contractually, access to that catalog only existed as long as they were a supplier. And so the client never owned the rights to it. They only had paid a subscription to have access to it. And essentially they couldn't get fired. If we move forward from products and you go again within this crafty products and we look at contracts, which is the biggest one, I'm a big believer in having non-expiring contracts. I hope this question comes up in the panel so that I can talk about it a bit more, but I like the idea of rolling contracts that just never expire, and you have extended cancellation and notification periods. We used to put cancellation justifications. A client would have to justify why they were canceling, and if they didn't meet the justification, you could legally defend it. If a client canceled within a specific period of time, they would have to pay you back for pitch fees. They'd have to pay you back for all the strategy and the lead, and all of this can be contracted in. It's a bit of a punishment for canceling. You can code into your contracts exclusivity clauses and create these preferred vendor statuses. And another thing that a few clients are getting right is these just cause clauses in contracts, and going like, if they give you notice, there has to be just cause, right? One of the most daunting things ever is if a new marketing person starts at your client, you're like, oh, that's like the biggest risk. But that's not a just cause for getting fired, and you can code that into your contracts. And there's a lot more here. Sorry, guys, I know I've rushed, but that's the basis. I feel like I've blurted out a whole million tactics as opposed to doing a concise thing. But that's me. I hope that helps, and then we can jump into the panel. I don't want to steal everyone else's time.
No, it was wonderful. I think you covered so many great and valid points, and there's, I'm sure, different models out there that everyone has kind of created themselves when they built their agency. So maybe now, Jane and Ned, if you want to add something what Craig said, and then I'll start asking questions that I received from the audience and that I have myself.
Sure, yeah. The only thing I wanted to say, but I was nodding away to everything you said. I was like, yep, I can relate to that. Yep, that's good advice.
Oh, Jane, I see you said you do 12-month contracts. Is that a legacy thing? Do you do it because you've always done it, or is there a strategy behind that?
There is a strategy behind it, because when we first set up, we didn't have any contracts and it was all project work, and we were just selling anything to anyone. And it was just a real headache across the business. It wasn't joined up. We weren't working kind of across departments or anything to upsell. It didn't make sense. It was just hard work. So yeah, we made the decision to niche, which I was going to come on to later. And then when we niched down, then we set up a specific package that was based on a 12-month contract.
Yeah, because we did the same thing. I thought winning a 12-month contract was the greatest thing ever. In our very first acquisition conversations, their auditor went through our contracts in detail, and he said, I see you have 12-month contracts. And I said, yes. And he said, they all have 1-month notice periods. And I said, yes. And he went, so it's a 1-month contract, like just stone cold in my face. He was like, this is a 1-month contract.
Oh.
And I went, and from that point onwards, I realized that's where this rolling contract. So you just say, we have an open-ended contract with a 3-month cancellation. So your security is not the 12 months because it's a 1-month notice. Your security and what you've done is you've created a date where they get to judge you and you have to renew, and it's terrifying. And you're like, oh, our business could be going backwards. Whereas I know with my cell phone contract, it just says, we will renew until you give us notice type of thing. And we reserve the right to increase prices. And so we changed our contracts to similar to that. So ongoing contract, it auto renews until you give notice, and it's a 3-month notice. And the auditors for all 3 acquirers were like, that is infinitely more secure around your future revenue than having fixed term dates, which I found fascinating.
Yeah, because when you get to the end, towards the end of that contract, you have that panic about whether they're going to renew and whether you're going to lose a 12-month contract for the next year. So yeah,
and it's the moment where you should be going in asking for rate increases and more budget, but you're so terrified that you lose it that it creates a point of nervousness. And if we had 2 big clients whose contracts terminated in the same month, it was about 60% of our revenue was on the line every year the same month. It was panic attacks.
Yeah.
And we look at this from a different standpoint. I know Jane's company is you've got these PR deals and things you're putting together. We're based on volume, and we always have been. And that's what Pinar had pinged me here and said, do you do contracts? We have a contract to build a website, and we fulfill that contract. And at that point, we have hosting, we have add-ons, and some of the things we're going to get into a little later here about recurring revenue. But people say, where's the contract? I said, there is none. They said, what? I said, no, if you want to leave, leave. If we do our job right, you won't leave. And I know, talking to the people at Duda, is our turnover rate is among the least that they have of any of the 20,000 plus agencies that they have. We do it on faith, and if we do a good job, we believe in that. But we have so many clients, I just don't believe in it. When I started this, I had a mentor at DePaul University, and I had shown him our contract. I had a contract 15 years ago. And he goes, you know what? This guy speaks for Hewlett Packard, Procter & Gamble, the biggest companies in the world. He said, if someone wants to break a contract, they're going to break it. And that's not who you want your client to be. And he was right. So I just stepped away from it. So that's kind of how we do it. But I did want to just pivot back to what Craig had said, that I hope that everybody that was listening, there weren't a ton of bullet points, but everyone was so powerful. And so he said business things at such a simple level for everybody to understand, including me. and it's just some really good stuff. And what he shared was right on the mark. Really, really good stuff. So hats off to you, Craig.
Oh, no, thanks. I want to comment on something you said then. I saw a question pop up, which I'm going to address quickly. A contract is only as strong as your willingness to enforce it, right? And I know very few agencies that have ever sued clients. Now, I fully support your model of just going, if it's, you know, you've got a large volume of clients, and as everyone have said, they'll find their way out of that contract if they really have to. And the chances of you suing them are so small that you rather don't have a contract. For me, I think that's absolutely phenomenal. Where I do believe in contracts is when you're dealing in massive multi-million-dollar deals where you are employing and you are responsible for the employment of a significant number of people, where you are signing contracts with other parties on behalf of this deal, then you absolutely have to have a tight contract, and you have to be willing to enforce it.
And we get 3 or 4 of those big deals a year. And I got to pivot. We do have ironclad contracts for those. And I'm talking about the agencies just, you know, spinning out 1, 2, 3 websites a week, a month, or whatever, that they're probably not as important to have. But the bigger ones, absolutely 100%.
Yeah, especially when you've got people's jobs on the line, you have to stand tall and be able to defend hold the client to account.
Just to add to that, we do go after clients for any lost invoices, etc., or lost payment if they don't pay, and if they try and get out of it. That's what our insurance is for, and we've used our insurance, and obviously there's the lawyers there to help us get our money. And you know, the 2 times that we've done it, we've got our money back. So it is worth having a contract. It is worth going after people if they break their contract.
Yeah.
I want to add quickly as well. The most dramatic legal battle I ever had within my agency was we didn't act against the client. We enforced our rights within the contract and put them in a position where they could legally act against us. Essentially, we had clauses in the contract that we owned the content until they paid. They hadn't paid us, and it was becoming a massive problem. The content would be published on their social platforms. So we locked them out of all of their social platforms, took ownership of the platforms, and we said, we will give you access when you pay. So we didn't send them, our decision was not to send them legal letters, which was a position of weakness. We took the position of, we will act according to our rights within this contract. They can sue us, right? And if they choose to sue us and it drags out in the courts, they're not going to get access to their platforms until it's resolved. And it was terrifying. I don't recommend it at all. All my hair fell out within a month. But like you don't have to execute a legal action. You can just enforce the rules within your contract and allow the client to respond. Sorry.
Yeah. So maybe I can take a question. I think we answered Hans's question around contracts, because he was wondering if you are, you know, locking clients to firm contracts or not. And so we have one question from Biz Consulting Group where he says, beyond general politeness, what's your best advice for closing retention deals? Could you share a real-world example of a specific package or value proposition that successfully secured clients?
Who's that question go for?
Who would like? Sure, all of you.
I can provide an answer.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got a couple of ways that we try and close, and it's a couple of things. So as part of our retained packages, we offer a guarantee. So this removes the risk from working with us. And the guarantee works if we don't hit our KPI by the end of the contract, then we'll do the work for free until we do. However, we're very good at what we do, and we've never had to work beyond 12 months yet. It doesn't mean to say it will never happen, but we KPI it at the rate that we know we can deliver for a brand in that sector. So it's kind of bespoke to every package. And we also offer a break clause. And this gives people just some added kind of peace of mind that if they really need to get out of a contract, they can. However, we have tightened that up recently so that break clause can only be activated if for performance reasons, not just because, generally you're not happy with us or you don't like somebody. It has to be because we haven't hit a certain KPI at a certain point of the contract. So that's something new that we've recently done.
Sorry.
What is happening in the studio?
My background just fell down.
They didn't like my answer.
No one died. No one died. Sorry about that, guys.
No problem. That just fell off the KPI board. Ned, would you like to add something?
No, I just saw another question that pop up because we don't worry about those things. So I'm not valid to answer that. But Haas had said, speaking of rate increases, what are some tips and strategies to do that? They're pretty defensive.
Yeah.
And I think that was a really good question. And a good example of this, and everyone on this call is going to know this, is a few years ago, Duda raised the rates. And I sat back, I got the email. I'm like, okay, what do I do here? I've got over 1,000 people, clients with Duda. This is a lot. And I thought about it for a day. I emailed the Duda team, Emily and Oded, and said, what are the great things that Duda did in the last year, the software and everything? And they outlined everything. And then I took all of that and said, maybe you didn't know all these things, but this is all the things that Duda, that the software has upgraded over the last year. And then this is my secret sauce. I'll bundle something with it. I'll add something. What we did was we said, we're going to give you an hour a month of edits. Most agency owners on this call know no one ever calls you. So it was something that cost us nothing. And for them, it was $150 a month, $1,800 a year savings. And I took the hosting up $10 a month or whatever it was. And I actually had people calling me saying, thank you. This is wonderful. The increase was there, but boy, you're giving me so much more value to it. And we did that again this year, where we added something that I worked on a widget with another vendor that offered an incredible amount of value. And we offered it, we took prices up, we sent it out to 700 people, 685 took us up on the offer to raise them $20, and they were thanking us for it. So bundle, do your research, find some good things that you can do that cost you way less than the increase, and make money on it and take it up, and then it's up forever. That's my 2 cents on that.
I can add something here, but I want to just put a caveat which says raising your prices is absolutely terrifying, and I don't want. If I give you practical tips, I'm not dismissing the emotional nightmare that comes with being brave enough to tell clients that you're raising their prices. Again, I think all things are easier when you initiate an agreement with a client that says on the 12-month anniversary of us working together, we have the right to increase it up to CPI or something like that. Rationally, conversations with clients should go along the lines of, we're the best at what we do. We hire the best people. They're not cheap. They get salary increases every year. If you want the best people working on your team, then you've got to understand that there's this pressure and it's going to go up. We would give clients the option. So often we would just say, our rates go up. That's it. It's not a negotiation. You have a choice. The choice is you can increase your budget to accommodate the rate, or you can accept fewer hours. But our rate goes up. So if your budget is flat, the number of hours available to you from our team decreases by 6% or whatever the CPI or 8%, etc. So it was more of our rate is going up. You can choose one of these two ways. But again, if the quality of your work is incredibly good, you shouldn't be nervous about a rate increase and having that conversation. If your work and your positioning and everything is average, not to be mean, but if there's a lot of other agencies who can do what you do, you'll always face price pressure.
That's true. And also maybe another question to Jane, like when you changed your model, right, where you said in the beginning that you were doing more projects to start off, and when did you switch and when did you realize it's better to be in a retained service model?
Yeah, so we switched in 2018, and we had decided that we were going to go from full content marketing agency to purely deliver digital PR. And we had a mentor at the time, and he looked at kind of what other people were offering, so what our competitors were doing. And he said, well, let's turn this into a product rather than a service, and let's see if we can offer a guarantee. And we were like, we've never done anything like that before. So that was really new. So it was a completely new way of delivering a service for us. And it was much easier to deliver because it was a much neater kind of package of what you got. The deliverables were really simple, KPI was simple, and the guarantee was really simple. So we picked up a really big, national client immediately from doing that and structuring it in that way.
Thank you. And I just received 2 wonderful questions. Also, Jared wants to know, how do you handle clients that habitually go out of scope when they are on a retainer? So these kind of very demanding clients that want more and more and more and keep overstepping the maybe contract or what you've agreed upon.
I'll answer quickly. Jared's not going to like me, but it's fine. You'll always have a tolerance. I mean, you don't want to be overly strict or whatever. You want to be a good service provider, so you want to have tolerance around it. But ultimately, it's a behavior that's allowed. That's like a parent asking, how do you get a child? Like it's the child. The clients will always do this. They will always push for the best position. It's actually less about them, and it's more around, how do you respond? How do you handle it? And I think instead of looking at it as a client problem, it's a you problem. You want to go like, how do you communicate boundaries with clients? How do you communicate the option for them to buy an additional package? Hey, listen, we're consistently over. Would you like to buy an add-on package, etc.? It's just having open conversations with clients and not being defensive about it. Thanks, Jared.
Yeah. It's funny, but the last 2 weeks, what we've done is we're redoing our proposal template. The team was here all day doing that for the last week. And Craig, you're exactly right. The biggest problem with that is me at my company, is I allow these things to happen. So what we're doing is we're taking the proposal that we send up first, and we're making it much clearer and defining things more. You get 2 rounds of edits, you get 3 comps on the logo. Beyond that, we're going to have to issue another work order for that. And we're going to stick to it. So I think at the beginning is how you scope it up front. Ours wasn't good enough. And by ours, I mean mine and what I gave them. It was too loose. And we've told our whole team, if these things get out of hand, we just had a client yesterday send out 13 emails. We said, excuse me, but we offer 2 rounds of edits. It was in the contract. Please stick with that, and to be kind, not to be a jerk, as you're saying. You've got to keep these people happy, but you've got to nip it in the bud and enforce it kindly.
True. And there's also a question that directly leads into what you just said. Like, if, let's say, then the customer decides to walk, how do you handle the website itself? Like, would you then let them take it, or? Yeah, that's AJ.
Hey, AJ, how are you, man?
Or just the domain, what would you do?
What we do, and you'd probably figure this out by now, but if the website is paid for and there are no current outstanding bills, we let them take it and tell them once they're paid, the website is yours. We're not going to keep it, because as the people that own agencies are on this call know, everybody has come across a bunch of agencies that got angry and said, well, we left and I can't take the website with me, and they're mad forever, and they're going to tell 100 people.
Yeah.
Well, we want those people to not be mad at us. If they want to leave, then it's probably our fault if they left us. If we're doing a great job, they really don't leave. So we let them take it and whatever they want, if everything is paid for.
Yeah.
I just want to add one quick thing on this, on the scope conversation. So I spent way too many years trying to convince my team or teach them how to say no to a client. But everyone's hard coded to keep clients happy because they don't want to lose a client. And that's a good thing, right? So instead of teaching my team to say no, we came up with this concept of weaponizing the yes. So you just say yes to everything. Like a client goes, oh, can you guys do this? Yes, absolutely. I'll send you a quote. Like, yes, oh, absolutely. You know what? That's a phenomenal idea. Like, brilliant. We'll put together a scope for you. Like, would you like to set up a brainstorm? And and you just say yes to everything. And then what happens is it's the client who has to say no. There's a very interesting shift in power when the client's the one who goes, oh no, I don't have budget. And you go, oh, that's such a pity. It was such a good idea. Maybe next year when you have budget. And it kind of flips it around a little bit. So weaponize the yes.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Jane, would you like to add something, or should I go with the audience?
I mean, we've been guilty of over-servicing, but we have a really tight contract that says, if you make life hard for us, basically, and you make it hard for us to deliver what we're KPI'd on, then you're breaching the contract. So we have a way of saying that behavior is not okay. You're getting in our way, which means we can't deliver on our KPI. So this has to stop, and we have to figure out this together.
True. And I missed a comment before from Matt. He was asking when you were talking about a product instead of a service. Can you tell more?
I have to show this to you. This is our brochure we hand out to all the people.
To say yes.
Just say yes.
Great minds think alike.
And it's more writing and send a quote. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Exactly. In
terms of creating a product, it was relatively straightforward from what I can remember, but we just took the elements of our service. We looked at the deliverables, the specific things we were going to do. We looked at the KPI, and we put it together so it looks like more of a tech product. So, when you're buying some kind of software or whatever it might be, you'll have kind of a little matrix of what's on offer at different kind of price points. So that's what we've done. And we just tick whether you get things at certain price points. And it's a very clean and clear way of telling people what to expect from working with you. Obviously, there's a lot more detail that goes on behind the scenes in the decks. But in terms of, we normally give people 3 package options that they can pick, and it's clearly laid out at what level they can have each deliverable and KPI.
I think that's also what Net does, right? With the packages, in your case, also effective. Like, how many tiers do you suggest?
3, because people will pick the middle one normally. And that's good. And you get them to add value as you go up in price. But, I think what's happened over time too is 5 years ago when I was doing these things with Duda and getting on these calls, and is people just expected a website. And you know what, today, that's not close to enough. With all the things that are going on in social media and listings management and SEO and PR and all the things that you can offer clients, a website just isn't enough right now. And you got to make that clear to them. And that's where the add-on products go. And I've spent years researching this stuff. I try it myself. We use it on our own websites. And that's when we have the confidence. I'll say, hey, you know what, this product I'm showing you, we've used it for a year, and here's the case study. It's me. Here's our dashboard. Take a look. You build the trust that Craig mentioned at the very beginning of his. As you build that trust, you position it as a win-win, but there's just more than that initial product today. And it's good to build on that and to add value. And we offer 3 levels of everything, hoping they hit on the middle one.
Okay. And how do you price them initially? Like, how do you do your calculations?
For us, and I think that's why we've got 1,400 paying clients right now, we price everything reasonably. And when we offer something new, they're going to know, all right, it's coming from Olive Street Design. We know they're not ripping us off. We know there are those other things out there. We just sold listings and citations packages to our 700 clients who took them. And we offered it but I did the research, a ton of research. We put emails out. We did videos for this. Most people are charging $149 to $199 for it. We offered it at under $30.
So low price.
Yeah, price reasonable. Don't rip
Reasonable,
people off,
yes.
but make the amount of money that you need to for your agency.
Mm.
But do the research, see where everyone else is at. And I mean, at that point, it's just a commodity software. I just negotiated a better deal with a vendor than most everyone else and charged a reasonable amount.
Pina, I can add to this. So we were massively unsuccessful at creating kind of the product list, like Jane was talking about, like having the checklist of what's included. I think partly our fault, but also, you know, we tended to specialize in pretty large, either listed or highly regulated companies, and so they had big budgets, and they tend to like. They want to be treated as though they're completely unique, and you know they are to pick off a product list. What we did get right, and I must give credit to my business partner Mike. His favorite saying was, "Where there's mystery, there's margin." And you know, Nat's coming across as like the nicest guy pricing correctly. I'll be the opposite and go like this is not price gouging, but where there's mystery, there's margin. And we would always start with a per hourly rate and go, well, how many hours? Because that's essentially our input cost. And when we get to that, then you look at go, well, what is it worth to the client? And then you start going, well, you know, if a client wants to book a strategy, a line item that says competitor research there's mystery there. And, you know, market research and in-depth analysis, these things all have mystery. And then when you turn around and go, okay, and we're going to do a half day strategy session with your team, and then we're going to do a presentation and etc. That you can bundle and build out service products quite quickly and justify higher rates than just going, it's going to take me 20 hours, and you can bundle it out. I sat in a meeting when we were still a small agency. We had one of the big 5 banks in South Africa as a client, and they hired, it was either Deloitte or McKinsey or one of these companies. They paid that company for a half-day session more than our entire year's retainers combined to sit in a room. And this is going way back. Like everyone had an iPad, and it was the coolest thing ever. Like that's how long ago this was. But they had a half-day session, people with iPads answering questions, doing some stupid game. And the results that they came up with, my 21-year-old community manager who managed the bank's social profiles could have given them better insights into their communities. And McKinsey or whoever, well, I don't want to name names, but one of the big consulting firms charged them more than that bank paid us in a year's fees.
Yeah.
And it was that mystery. It was just this like, oh, well, we're going to come and do this interactive session. And as much as I despise that, and I never wanted to be that vacuous, I did take a lot of lessons from it and go, you know what, there are ways to earn enough budget. And the way I said to my team is, I go, the more budget you earn, the better work you can do. It's not about price gouging. It's about value gouging. It's about getting a client to pay you enough money to truly deliver good work. Because like my very first slide, if you're doing good work, you're retaining clients.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many business models out there. And I think in Net's case, it's like it works when you have like so many clients and in a volume, like also Horst says, for many, like what you just said with the bank example, it's getting super difficult to sell services to SMBs. So when you have, let's say, 5 big ones, and then suddenly an SMB comes, then you know you'll be too expensive for them, or vice versa, right? They could doubt in your case, Net, as, oh, that is too cheap.
And that's Haas, I think that's the example that I'm talking about. It's not super difficult to sell those. I'll say, you know, it said, what are your top services we sell? Chatbots, AI chatbots. We've sold 400 of them. We haven't even started trying it. But if you had 40 and you sold them at $30 to $40 each, all right, you're at $1,000 a month in additional revenue. ADA compliance, AudioEye. I reached out to the AudioEye people, and they sent me an email cadence to send to our clients. And this one was more, Craig would like this more. This one was out of fear and threats, saying you will be sued. But then we put an asterisk at the bottom and said, if you get sued, you hold harmless Olive Street Design. And all of a sudden we had 200 people sign up that day. Like, oh my God, if he's worried about getting sued, I'm going to. So at $40 times right out of the gate there, 200 clients, there's $800 times 7, 12 months. If you're a small agency, you've got 10 or 20. These things all add up: translation widgets, local listings management, social media, things like that. Find those, and between 20 to an extra $100 a month. And these are the scale of not Jane and what Craig are talking about. These are for the smaller agencies. You get 30 of them at $100 more a month. It's $33,000 a month. It's $36,000 a year. That's a lot of money to a small agency, because I was one 15 years ago.
I don't know about Jane, but I would have traded my agency for Nat's business in a second. Like, I try and explain around our growth. I think when we were about 20 people, our revenue came from probably 15 clients, and when we got to 100 people, our revenue came from 6 clients. And you lose one of 6 clients. So it's just every day, like Nat, you could lose 20% of your clients and probably not notice for a few days. Like, I love that business model. I think it's phenomenal, but I don't undervalue how hard you've worked to get there. I think you're selling it as though it was an easy thing, and I don't think it was. So credit to you.
No. Yeah, thanks, Craig.
Yeah, so it's really amazing to listen to these success stories. And I think we still have 5 minutes. So anything you want to share that you think that the audience should take or try out in their agency? I'm sure there's a lot of agency owners here now, and that you think, okay, this is really, really one key takeaway from today. Maybe Craig, Jane, Ned, whoever wants to start.
I mean, I'm not sure it's really a takeaway, but although it may sound like we have a good setup, we're constantly tweaking our packages. We're constantly adding new elements to them. We're adding bolt-ons and all sorts of things for the additional kind of revenue. So what we now have is what you could describe as like a McDonald's menu, where you've got your mains, you've got your sides, and your desserts or whatever else. So we're trying to add on, within kind of digital PR and SEO, we're trying to add on little services to increase that kind of monthly revenue.
Cool.
I'll happily jump in with mine. It's a bit lofty, but I think it's important under the topic of retention. I glossed over this earlier, but it's firing clients is an important part of running an agency. Is recognizing that in order to grow, you have to lose the clients that are on 2020 rates. You have to lose employees who aren't going to be able to do the work that the agency. So in order for agencies to grow, it's like you shed your skin and you grow into a new version. So being comfortable getting rid of clients is an important concept to get. So this fear of having to retain, you should be going, how do I upgrade? And every conversation that you have with a client about rate increases, scope creep, all of that, every single one of those conversations, your confidence is based in the strength of your new business pipeline. So if you feel like you don't have confidence in those conversations, it's not about faking it. It's about going, how much work can I do in shoring up potential new opportunities? Because if you have 3 sales calls that afternoon and a client is trying to bully you, you're a different person. And so I would encourage anyone to just go, like, again, it's not easy, but try as hard as you can to drum up opportunity and interest and be able to look at the market and go, I'm not going to die if this client fires us or if they leave because we raised our prices. There's a lot of opportunity. My pipeline's looking good. So your confidence is directly linked to your pipeline and almost nothing else.
Yeah. We call that white noise here, Craig. Those bad clients, and you have to shed them. I did this morning. I did one, and I feel better about it.
Yeah, you recommend them to your biggest competitor, and you make your biggest competitor suffer.
Yeah, really. Go here. They'd be happy to have you. Yeah. So we do there. There's a lot of things that you can add just quickly. We look at 1 a quarter. I mean, on Duda's app store, there's just a lot of things. Focus on one. Take 3 months and execute it. We do sales decks, we do email cadences, we do phone calls, we become experts at it. And just focus on one of them every quarter and you have a lot more success.
super cool. Thank you very much. We're almost out of time, and you see, it's dark here now. It's night in Berlin, so I forgot to turn on the light, but I think you see me still. It was wonderful. Thank you for having the time to sit with me here in the last session of DudaCon. We're closing.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Ned.
Hope it was worthwhile.